Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, hey, in diaspora, current affairs, hey, reliable information, history, talking about culture, hey, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Between the Headlines on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In this edition of Focus on Liberia, we want to be looking at presidential nominees for the Joseph Newman Boakai government. And there are no nominees yet, but we want to highlight what to look for in a potential nominee and where should President-elect Boakai be looking. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, and of course, we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Let me welcome our co-host and panelist. He's playing dual roles here, Mr. Anthony Sie. He's the host of Our Politics. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Dennis, thank you. It's good to be here. We have a government that is coming in to serve our people. We want the best and the brightest. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And let me welcome Dr. Abdullah Dukle, someone who knows a thing or two about government and governance. He's here with us. Dr. Dukle, welcome. Join us. Let's sort this out.
Pleased to be here, Dennis, and hello to everyone.
Let me welcome the one who teaches our history here, and he's our public policy professional right here. Ko Yiye. Ko, welcome.
It's always my pleasure to be here, Dennis.
Let me welcome Mr. Jimmy Eastman. He was on duty when the rebels entered Liberia, and so he was at LEC, and so he's been around government as well. Welcome, Jimmy.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to a very learned exercise.
Thank you. And Honorable Greaves, please turn your camera off so we can do this with our camera. Let me also welcome Honorable William Gadier Greaves. Honorable Greaves, welcome.
Yeah, Dennis. Thank you for having me again, Dennis, and Happy New Year's to everybody. And I look forward to a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Happy New Year to you.
I'm so sorry about this because I was at the 11th hour. I know it was abrupt.
Yeah.
Making my way home, and I'm not fully home yet. So, yeah.
Thank you. Anytime you're not talking, just mute your line. So, Honorable Greaves, thank you for coming. We want to talk about this thing, right? As you may know, President-elect Joseph Newman Boakai will be inaugurated in say 2 weeks time on the 22nd, and there have been a lot of anxiety or eagerness, or people are anxious to see his list. As a result, all kinds of speculations are flowing around. People are coming up with their own list. Here are the people, I have the list, I got an insider, and everything else. So Focus on Liberia decided to take a step back so that we can look at what is in a presidential nominee. What should we be looking for? And what is, and where to look? Should we look at the young people? Should we look at the older people? Should we look at the JNB generation, my generation? Should we be looking in the diaspora? Where and who? And when we say who, not individual per se, but the qualities, the professionalism. But let me start like this. Why is it? I don't know. And I was looking at the history of it. Why is it there is so much anxiety, or there is so much expectation? People are expecting President-elect Boakai to announce his cabinet, and from my time of looking at it, and I don't have any record before me, I've not seen anything like that where the expectations are so high and people want to know. Jimmy, what do you think is responsible?
Beautiful question. I think what really responsible, because I'm hearing some feedback.
Go ahead, it's good now.
Okay, so what is the cause for the anxiety? The formation of the team will sort of like set the pace of what this administration will do. And if you have a very cohesive team, a responsive team, a team of a very knowledgeable and analytical team that is dynamic, it can be a break for all Liberians, because the nucleus of a presidency is the cabinet and the top advisors. And when you have a solid core of individuals bonded by an idealism and integrity and faith in country, you have a power group, and this could set the tone for everybody else in government to follow, and so that is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is people tend to gravitate to public officials, especially in our impoverished country. You want to know who would be there, so what kind of deals you could broker, what kind of favors you could get, what kind of job you may be available to you now that the helm has changed. So that is probably another reason why people looking eagerly to find out what would be these players and how it may impact their livelihoods and opportunities.
Thank
So
you.
that's about it in a nutshell for me.
Thank you. Dr. Douglas, you were there with President Salif and also President Weah coming in. Where at this point, where were we with President Salif nominations and President Weah nomination at this point? Do you have idea as to where? Because it seemed there's people are, I don't know, I want to say if people are rushing JNB.
Yeah, I think people are rushing him. And I remember 2005, at this point, no one knew who was going to be what. There was no, there was no anxiety. I mean, people knew, okay, Ellen was elected and that was it. And I remember Boakai was leading the transition team. And they had an office where they received CVs and all of that, and then they vetted some and sent packages to the president-elect every day, and she made her choices. And then sometimes, and actually, in 60% of the cases, she just decided on something totally different. So she did not follow 60% of the recommendation made by the transition committee to her, although they work on it. So at this point, nobody was really, I think there was an excitement about her being elected. There was an excitement, and there was also sort of, I don't know, I think people were more relaxed after, the battle for the, You remember the CDC protested the elections. There was tension. UNMIL had to intervene in many places. So all of that happened. All of those things, the CDC was not conceding. That took about a month or so. So I think at that point, we were just to say, okay, elections are over. We have a new elected person, and then we move on. But now, Barker came with Unity Party, royalists who stayed with him from 2016. He came also with diaspora, people who raised money and went home to campaign for him. And also, his old buddies that are also there. And now everybody's thinking, where do I go from here? The alliance, you remember there was 19 political parties at one day who came to say, okay, we're all here to support you. 2 days after the results were announced. So you got 19 parties, you got everybody saying, we are here to support you. It's about a job, it's about jobs. That Ellen time, no, we didn't have this kind of anxiety. People were just more relaxed and they were happy to see, okay, Judge Weah conceded, and then we're moving on, and that was it. But I think this time it was just probably the fact also that Mr. Weah has not dismissed a single minister in 6 years, except the Minister of Posts and Communication. So he had the same minister, people get used to them, and then they're tired. It's okay, we want to see new faces. Who are the new faces? That plays into it too. There's an anxiety to know who are the new faces that work. Is he going to bring back the old Unity Party, or is he going to go somewhere else?
Carl, by this time, were you already contacted?
I did not start working with President Sirleaf's administration in the beginning. She did come to the States and she did come to the States and try to and actually recruit scout talent and met with people, and y'all come home, it's time for us to put our hands together. But as you know, I went to Liberia. The United Nations took me to Liberia, not the government. But
so by this time, President Sirleaf was doing something where she was actively kind of talking to people to say, come home.
Right. So I remember a friend of myself and another one of our friends went to the University of Minnesota where she had like a town hall meeting so long ago. But yeah, she was talking to people. She was making her presence known, and especially as young women, we were so excited that she was elected. So anywhere she would go to speak, we would make it there, and it was very optimistic. The feeling was so optimistic that we were going to, even if we didn't go to Liberia for government, if the UN took us or whatever it was, we all felt this need to go and contribute to the process of it was almost like a process of reconstruction, right? Because after the war. So it was a very exciting and optimistic and almost idealistic time. And so the energy that was there then isn't really present now. And I think it's just because people are accustomed to the normal transition of power. I don't think it's anything strange to Liberian people as it was in 2006, 2007. So JNB's in a completely different position than President Sirleaf was. Some things are still constant, but many things have changed. So that's all I have to say about that.
Carl, what changed? What's different with JNB?
Again, we're not just coming out of conflict, right? We're not just 3 years out of conflict. We're 20 years out of conflict. So that's a huge difference. People are used to stability, or they should be. And we as administration, as much as I feel like it was lawless and a lot of, constitutional provisions were ignored, it wasn't a period of conflict and war. So there was some stability, some normalcy in the country. So JNB is being looked at differently. We're not. I could be wrong. Maybe some people look at this as a period of reform. I think it's for me, it's more of a period of, let's get law and order back in checks and balances back in place. But for the most part, I don't think people are expecting the kind of drastic, hopeful, changes that we were in 2006. At least that's my personal opinion.
Thank you. Honorable Graves, uh, why are people so eager to see JNB cabinet? And is in your view, is he doing everything correctly and timely to satisfy that curiosity? Honorable Graves, you are muted. If you can unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I would say in a nutshell is that I put it this way: administration, government is all about preparedness. And once you have taken the center stage of going through an electoral process to be elected as a president, you must have already had your game plans. That leads to the platform, your agenda, and those individuals and people, your trusted aides that you look forward to, that team you form to implement those agenda, those platforms. So I would have thought that by now they would have constituted a team, like Jimmy just said, for preparedness and readiness to start a transitional period. That's form a kitchen cabinet, a kitchen group. They might not be the same individuals that will hold the various positions in government as cabinet and all that, but you will have a team that is already hitting the ground and ready to work, so that the implementation of your policies and your agenda, your platform is impacted. So going back to 2005, when President Sally won the elections, President Sally formed a team of a transitional team that consisted of members that she had trusted, that would have that were compassionate about coming in to serve and looking forward to implementing those agenda that she had and those plans that they had. They all were part of it. They were not like standby or bystander rather. They were all part of. They were inclusive, so they knew exactly what she wanted. They knew what she would thought of. They have a vision in place. So those things were already started. And I was in the executive management before President Salih came in. We I was one of the individuals on the staff designated to do the touring of the executive mansion to the incoming team. And so I know from that standpoint, before she even took office, they were already ready, because those individuals that came, most of them were the ones who formed her cabinet, and those were the ones who at the later state took on government and her various positions. So what I'm trying to say is that if you're not ready by now, when are you going to be ready? We all want the best for Liberia. Look, I trust President-elect Boga. I know he's going to do the right thing. I know he came with the right mind. But you cannot just say, "I want to do this for the Liberian people." First of all, the campaign was all about urgency. The campaign was about rescuing Liberia from all of the problems and ills we had in society. So by this time, anybody will wonder that why they are not prepared. That transitional team that was formed to work with the current administration right now should have been trusted people that he has already chosen, that might have little fill those spots, those positions, to start to get the ground running for him, because there's no time to waste. That's why we have the period from November to January when he's inaugurated into office. It means that all of those frameworks, all of those things, those are the groundwork, those are the things you start plotting, you start plotting, putting together, so that you when by the time you're on your feet, you're ready to run. So I think I have not been following activities. I have not been really going to the day-to-day affairs of President like Joseph Boaga, but I think in that regard, it's a little slow, and there's no condition, there's no reason, there's no justification for that, because elections is elections, and elections what transcends into office holder, office holding, governance. Elections is the same as governance. Your team you form around you to go. Those are that's governance right there from the initial stage. So um, to not have to have people going around with messaging and all of these things, I think is delusional. And it's not just delusional, but it's hurting the incoming administration. Because I trust that they are of the right intentions. They are ready to deliver. They will do the right thing, and it's time that they put their minds to the right place and start getting the right things done, so that people can be convinced. The PRO, but now you should have a PRO. You should have a public relation. We have people like Dr. Dugley, who is a advisor or a technocrat when it comes to uh, communications and what have you. These are the people we need to have on board, disseminating information to the public. Where you stand, where are you? Don't leave them in oblivion. Don't leave a void. Then the people start speculating. All of these things that we are discussing now start to taking shape. So I think it's a little bit I won't say slow, but I think it's off timing a little bit. I'll put it that way.
Thank you, Mr. Sear. Uh, is are we, where are we to you? Why is this anxiety we see? Is it because there is no information, that's why people are speculating? Is it because they're just anxious to see something done, or they think that the transitional team or Mr. Bwaka's team is moving at a slower pace?
Well, then is the thing is about the leader and the institution and the individuals who came together to get President President-elect Joseph Walker elected. Those are the things that are building up, and creating this the anxiety and this anxiousness. First of all, if you look at Joseph Walker and you look at President Weah, in terms of experience when it comes to governance, we know that Walker has the experience and knowledge and understanding of what a government should be. And Weah didn't have that. And so people are like, okay, Walker will produce a better government in terms of personnel. Ellen produced such government. And so the expectation is that, and even though we can criticize Ellen Johnson Sirleaf here and there, but she had a government that was qualified, competent government. She did not deliver to my expectation, but she had a competent government in terms of the formation. So people are looking for that in Walker. They didn't see that in George Weah. They wanted that, but they know they couldn't get it because that is now Weah thing. But for Walker, they expect him to produce that kind of government, and so that is building that particular eagerness for that. The other piece is that who all came together to elect Walker. You have a coalition, if you like, of individuals. You have some progressive coming, some later on endorsing him, the likes of Dubayan. You have Dr. Larry Togba. These people came, they tried to form things here and there to help him. All these people in the midst. Now, who's going to be who and who's going to be what? People think that there are a lot of qualified people there, so they want to see him bring the qualified. And then the other thing is the rescue thing they brought. They created this emergency that, Lord, this country needs to be rescued. And when you want to rescue the nation, you need to have people who are competent to rescue the nation. And so people are eager to see those who will be able to rescue Liberia. I think those are the things that are, creating this anxiousness, to see a government that works for them.
So, Carl, how does Honorable Boakai deal with this, or how should it be done? You're talking about the recruitment. You're talking about getting information out there, or actively pursuing people. Like when he was in the States, I was expecting, or maybe I thought, they were going to even meet Liberia and see, okay, let's tap talents, or you have people. What is Honorable Boakai supposed to be doing now?
I mean, I don't know why we're being so presumptuous that he hasn't done what he needs to do, that he doesn't already have his cabinet picked out. Is it normal to announce a cabinet before you're sworn in? I don't know. We have one president at a time. George Weah is still our president. So Boakai does not have to publicly explain everything he's doing yet. Weah still is the president of the Republic of Liberia. So when Boakai becomes president, it is then his responsibility to nominate members of his cabinet. I don't think I don't think there's anything wrong with him not putting these things out there before he's sworn in. I mean, I think that's protocol, is to wait to be sworn in before you start talking about who is who. I think we're just anxious, and I think people need to calm down. There's nothing that says that he has to announce his cabinet the moment he's sworn in either. You know, the current cabinet, the current ministers, do not have to be fired on the day he takes over. So we have to chill. We have to relax a little bit and allow him to perform. To all this speculation and assuming that he's not doing this or doing that, it's not I don't have much to say about that. I don't think it's appropriate yet. I heard people say, they're surprised he hasn't done this. I mean, are you sitting in his house every day? Do you know that he doesn't have a tight-knit group of people around him, that doesn't have a think tank for different sectors organized? If he has not announced it, we can't presume that he does or doesn't. I offer my thoughts and opinions wherever I'm asked, but it's not something that I don't think that he's sitting around idly.
Mm-hmm.
Let me, hey Dennis, if you allow me, let me buttress some of what.
Some of the point, because my name was called by Mr. Grieve. Just 10 seconds.
No, I will give you 1 minute.
Okay, you give me 1 minute. I think we kind of like putting our own frustration into play when we talk about Buckeye process. I was in the campaign in 2005. It's not like I was outside. I was part of the campaign. I wrote speeches. I went to every campaign event. And I know how the transition worked. Until Ellen was sworn in, no one knew who was going to get what job except Buckeye. We knew Buckeye was vice president, and nobody else knew anything. So anybody tells you that Ellen had a team that was ready to take over in 2005 when she got elected, no, it wasn't there. She kept it to herself. And everybody suspected, oh, this person may go this person. And we had the same, some people were talking about it on the media, we had list service and all of that. But definitely, Ellen never showed that she had an organized team of think tankers or whatever it is, media gurus coming around. And in fact, one of the things was never talk about what happened in the transition. That was a memento. No one. Maurice Duclay, Maurice Setuma, Bokai was leading the thing, and other technicians. People were working 24 hours a day, but the idea, you don't talk about it. You don't talk about who's what the transition team was doing. And I challenge anyone to come up and say, 2005, there was press release or any press conference by the transition team. There was none. It was all done in secret.
Right. So who were doing this in secret?
No, it's not. It's not a secret. It was like the transition. You take over from ministry to ministry. It's a paperwork thing, and then you set up. In the meantime, you set up your incoming government. You look at files. You say, okay, this. But you think somebody will be in the opposition for 6 years, having been vice president for 12 years, and then he's going to win the election? Or he doesn't know who is going to put our foreign affairs. He doesn't know who's going to put our finance. Come on, guys. Let's be serious.
So let me.
It's ridiculous. The arguments we are making are ridiculous. They say, oh, he doesn't have a think tank. He doesn't. I'm a media guru. I'm not a media guru.
Dr. Duclay, so at this point, what was Ellen doing behind the scenes, and with whom?
What Ellen was doing behind the thing, Ellen was home. She was talking to people, and the transition team was in an office behind Lone Star. She never went there. At the end of the day, Boakai or Maurice Duclay or Maurice Setuma, the three of them will come, and then Benson, what's his name? Former Minister of Finance, Ben, I can't remember his name, will come and brief her, and then they will give her some files. Sometimes it's about economy, sometimes about security, sometimes about people that who came on board. But at the end of the day, she appointed people she wanted to, and she appointed them the day after she went to the office. So don't come and fabricate a new reality that Ellen had a team ready to go, because I was there. It was more chaotic than this.
Thank you. Honorable Greaves was there. Hold on, Jimmy. Let me go to Honorable Greaves, because Honorable Greaves, at this point in time, what exactly are the expectations that Bwaka should be doing right now as we speak?
So before I go to there, I just want to rectify something. This is 2020 and 24, and all that happened in 2023. Let it go. I don't think it's time now that we can't be debating each other and condemning each other points and what have you. I mentioned his name in a positive frame of mind, thinking that okay, this is an example, not using him as any member of the Baga team or who had information on what they are doing right now. So you can give a recollection of things. There's not everything you'll collect. You will be there. Some people with no Liberian people, they will always tell you, I was there. I saw everything. And then you go to the nitty gritty of things and start asking them, and you load it, they start slipping through the cracks. So let us not make this thing Mr. Greaves and fabricating stories or what have you. I'm giving an account, a recollection of what I experienced. You might have experienced something different, and I was there. I experienced it. I worked in the executive mansion. I was in the transition period in the president, in the office of the president, the chairman. So I was one of the persons of staff designated to receive the incoming team of the new administration. That happens to be President Sirleaf's administration when she just won the elections. So when I give an account, I know what I'm talking about. The team I met Asheville Peel. Asheville Peel was said to be responsible of the SSS. At the time was called SSS, Special Security Service. Maurice Duclay was said to be the Minister of State. There were Lawrence Comalan Broble, Dr. Broble. There were people who were getting information, and all these people. Why did I work with them over the period? Because why they were transitioning? Because they needed to have an idea, a feel of the executive mansion. They needed to know that the minister needed to know his office. He needed to know what he had to do. So he met his counterpart, who was there holding up, and he also needed to, the SSS director, Asheville Peel, who came in, needed to know the east wing of the executive mansion, acquaint himself with things and what have you. I was on that team. So I'm not giving an account. Maurice Tuma, all of them, the whole team that came, I worked with them. And what happened when Elliot announced? Elliot announced those very same people, the identical names, into those various positions that were speculated or they were told that we knew of. So Anthony Sai was said to have come to head finance. All those things was before President Sirleaf got inaugurated. All those things were there. They had a PRO. They set up a team. So I don't know. I never met Dr. Dugley. I don't know. I met him potentially later on eventually in government, but not at that stage. Not at that stage. I never met him. I didn't know him then. But the people I met, the people who were on the PRO, who were giving the public information, who were telling them what the team was, what was happening, how the findings, and how those were people from that were different names. That like. So when I give a recollection, I give an account of what I experienced and observed. I'm not putting it against what you did. You do what you did. I mean, I it's all good for you. So do not tell me I'm fabricating. I'm not fabricating anything. I'm giving a direct account of being there. And what I'm saying again is that traditionally in Liberia and in most parts, when elections are held, there is a period of transitioning, and that transitional gave the opportunity to the incoming team to get themselves acquainted, used to the various those people who are interacting with the colleagues that are already in government. I'm not telling anybody that President-elect Joseph Boaga is the president of Liberia. We know we have one president. It's President Weah. But the incoming team take the position of getting themselves acquainted and the familiarize themselves. It's not just an audit that they're turning over. That's why it's a transitional team, and that team should be ready to go. So when there's a campaign, when it's a platform, when it's an agenda of that campaign, you already must have had a team to implement those things. That's why you're talking about it. Technicians and staff around you. So most time we look at the transitional team to be the team potentially to take over. And that's how it's always been done. So I'm not making up stories. I was there. That's my recollection. President Sally was engaged. She was abroad and home. She was holding meetings. She was talking to people, and she was getting herself ready. She was not just sitting at home. And that's what I know. President Sally even visited the executive mansion with her team some of the time, most of the times.
Thank you. Thank you. Jimmy, you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to buttress something Carl was saying. From my point where I am here, I do know of people are being tapped right now. This is private information, and it's not necessarily even to the top, but as low as assistant minister or deputy minister. Now, if I were to compare that of Ellen era, I know when she was actively searching while I was in the States. There's a place, I don't want to mention any names, but there's a place in Maryland where a lot of the recruiting was going on. But I think what Mr. Greaves is talking about is that maybe he's looking for something very comprehensive, like a group that will be thorough. Because if you're going to change Liberia from the nature of things today, you would have to do something very, very comprehensive. So maybe it's a little early, but I think they will have to dig deeper than anything very superficial if it's going to be successful.
Thank you, Mr. Sia. This is one of our guests. Dr. Joseph Cotto was the head on education on the Ellen transitional team, and he was appointed Minister of Education. So most times, whose name is in speculation come out to be true. And we are saying some of those speculations too. So who knows? Yeah. Maybe those that are on the transitional team may end up being the ministers. Mr. C, I want you to have your last word on this so that we can move on to now our topic for the day.
And then I know that they have something they call clusters. And the clusters, the way they define it to me, is a group of individuals who are the focus persons, say, finance ministry. And they have, these groups, and the focus there is to be looking at specific ministries and agencies, and in some instances, specific sectors. And each cluster has a leader or head, and then they have a deputy there. They are trying to get an assessment of how things are in all these ministries and agencies. I think it will be most appropriate to say that the individuals held those clusters, if at all, they should be considered for any of those, position in that area. Like, we're hearing a name like John Monroe. I don't know if he's the head for the cluster on the economy or finance. He might likely land that job, or it may not be him, in as much as the information they need to be able to start, provided to maybe whoever will be appointed in that role, that person will be able to serve, knowing where they are. So I don't expect a perfect situation right now, because people are anxious, people want job, and many people supported Joseph Boakai, and I don't expect a perfect, situation right now. But I think having some key individuals, for example, who's going to be Boakai press secretary. I want to see that person in action. I want to see the person interacting with whoever the press secretary now, so that when Boakai is sworn in the next day, that person knows what to do. I want to see whoever going to be the finance minister, and that is my common sense thing, right? Who's going to be the finance minister should be interacting with the current minister of finance.
And when you say you want to see it, when you say you want to see it, where is on TV or how you want to see it?
Well, I want to see that person. All right. I want to see the team making reports, and we are not hearing anything like that. I know that they are talking, but again, there is a post that came from an individual who is within the Boakai circle who said that nothing is going on. CDC is stonewalling the entire transitional process. They have not gotten any significant information that they need to be able to start on day one. This is somebody very close to Boakai. He expressed a frustration in a long Facebook post that nothing is going on. People are pretending, people are being deceptive that the transition is going on smoothly. And he was clear. What does that tell you? It tells you
All
that
said the same thing.
yeah,
All said the
it
same
tells you
thing.
that even though they have these clusters not getting the information. So if Waka were to say appoint somebody for Minister of Finance now on day one, that person will be confused. And I think it would be best that those who are held in the cluster, especially for key areas, all right, those who be appointed should be visiting those ministries and agencies so that they will know what to be done on day one, because this is a rescue mission. Dennis, remember that. This is a rescue mission. You don't want your press secretary to be confused on day one what to say and what to do.
And Dennis, and Dennis, quickly, just before I forget this part, I forgot to mention this. The reason you have a transitional team and those members of the transitional team holding the positions of the various government agencies and ministries is that you want to have the ground. Like we have a common saying that the general does not go to the war front alone. He has to take his lieutenants and his able-bodied soldiers combat ready troop to fight with him. So we are saying the president, he doesn't have any means of being in a hurry or what have you, because he's not inaugurated. No, when he's inaugurated, he's alone. And if he have trusted lieutenants around him, this is when you start the ground rolling, because there's a process that you go through, especially for those holding cabinet positions. You have to go through a whole confirmation period to have yourself ready and all that. So you want your troops ahead of you. You want all of those things that to be taken care of. So you want to start the groundwork before you get inaugurated. When you inaugurated, you have a trusted aid at Ministry of Finance, like the brother just alluded to, Finance Ministry. You have Foreign Ministry, and these are prominent areas in pertinent areas in government, in administration, finance, foreign affairs, commerce, defense, all those areas. So you don't want to come here and have a fallback position. You don't want to start blaming people. Oh, I came in. Oh, the transition team, they didn't give me the right information I needed. No, it's administration. That's why it's called administration in waiting. By this time, it should already be formed. We're already in January. What are we talking? The name should be out there. The process is to start, and that's how that traditional. That's how it always is always done. And then when he's inaugurated, he's not worried about who's going to carry his mandate, who's going to be responsible for all of his goodwill and his pledge, his promises to the people. So it starts from the first day. So that's why these things are done before. When Ambassador Edward Dunn came to me during the transition period, he said he was the chief of protocol, and he was. When Minister Ducler came, Boris Ducler, he said he was going to be Minister of State. So all these things, the framework was set in, all these things. So it's not much about anxiety. It's about being, look, Honorable Boaga is I would say he's credible, he's experienced, yes. But it's not just saying it all the time. It's setting it into action. Do I trust him? Yes. But the people need to know, because you're a public servant. It's not a private position that we always say he can do. No, there's a country you're dealing with. It's not a UP, it's not a partisan anymore. He's not the president of the Republic of Liberia. The Liberian people need to know what's going on with the incoming administration. So he has to be open with them. He should set up. It should be. Oh, come on, it should be organized right now. Should have a PRO. But man, I think
the same thing he's been saying over and over again, Dennis. Come on. We've already told him, we refuted this, and he comes back and
so there's a platform for the audience. It's not for any one of us. So if you have your point to raise, you raise the point. If I have my time to talk, I'll talk. Nobody restrict me. There's not a dictatorial. There's not authoritarian. There's not authoritarian BBN. There's not. We're not running a dictatorial form here. No, we are all at liberty to speak our minds.
All you're doing is repeating yourself.
We are. Thank you. The audience will get what I'm saying. If you don't like it, it's up to you. When you get time to talk, report what I say. Make your point. We have a moderator. We have a moderator. We have a moderator.
And
he would tell me.
Him to moderate.
He would tell me if I'm talking much. Not you. You're a guest. The audience.
It's annoying.
Honorable Greaves, just go back to your point. Let him finish. Go ahead, Honorable Greaves. You have 30 more seconds.
So the audience you have, that we should be very respectful of each other and respect our audience. The audience have the right to hear.
You're
The
not
audience have
respecting
the
the
right to hear
audience.
what we got to share with them from our perspectives. Not,
Right.
I'm not
Of
debating
course.
anybody
Stop
here.
repeating
If you have
yourself.
your time to talk, you speak what you want to say. And when I have the time to talk, I say, nobody tell me how to talk. Nobody tell me what to talk, and nobody tell me I'm
I've already
lecturing.
done that. I
No,
say
there's
what
no
I want to
dictator.
say as
There's no
well.
dictator here. You do not
Honorable
control
Chris,
a
just
public
Please
forum.
calm
So
yourself down and stop repeating
the
yourself.
issue.
Honorable Chris,
There's
just go to your point.
2024. There's 2024. Dennis, if you want to have me on this platform, there should be a level of respect.
Yeah,
I don't
please,
know this
please,
lady. She doesn't know me.
all
She doesn't know my background. I do not know her
just
background.
finish.
And I do not come to debate her here. When I come to share my perspectives with the audience
Right,
from
go
my
ahead.
experience.
Honorable Graves, 30 seconds to
So
conclude.
that's why you always have to have, when you come in as a minister, elections have consequences. You should always be ready. That's why I say prepared for any administration, any group. You should have the ball rolling from the start, and that's the point. So those people who are going in, those are your lieutenants. Those are the people your trusted aides. Those are the people you rely on. That when you're inaugurated, those are the people who hit the ground running with you on the day one. Not to wait until you get in a loom and you make an excuse that, oh, I didn't have the right people that I needed. All these people that I had were incompetent. All these people were hiding things from me. They got the opposition didn't want me to succeed. So those are you get rid of all those excuses by having your people, the competent one, the one you know that are loyal and compassionate to your plight and your platform. You have them now. And that's what every administration does. Incoming administration. Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead with your point. Let's wait
Okay,
until
Paul.
before
Can
you
I
come.
say
Before you
some?
come in.
I think this is like, I think we've been through this thing this whole 1 hour we spent, we talked about, expectations. What do we expect from a transition team? What I remember, 2017, I was part of the transition team. In fact, I was on the same committee as Minister 12.
I'll tell the people how to talk and what to say.
I was on the same team as Minister 12. We finished the documents, we filed them. You know what they did after the day after inauguration? Everybody would go home. Minister, deputy minister, assistant minister, everybody go home and let the director and all that people take over the how you call it? Take over the ministry. That's what happened. Then there was no reference to the work we did for 1 month and a half. And I'm not speaking as somebody who was watching the door or taking people in the meeting. I was inside. I was on his transitional team. When it happened, all the hula we're talking about, the CDC never took, one piece out of it. And they went and set up the government anyway. And the government ran for 6 years.
Right.
So please, come on, gentlemen.
Dr. Dugley,
Yes.
are you saying that the way Ellen did it is the standard?
The way Ellen did it, if it's a standard?
Yeah.
But there was no standard of transition team in Liberia before that. In 2005, she did it because she put a team together, and then the same thing. Everybody knew who was going to be where.
Should that be the benchmark, or should that be the standard we follow?
Should 2005 be the benchmark? No, that's not benchmark to transition. Every person has a leadership, something to do. You play your role. You play. The main one is election. He has a team. Somebody came here one time and said, "Oh, we don't even know if they have a platform." We say, "Yes, there's a platform. Go read it." And somebody came and said, "We don't even know if they have a transitional team." We say, "Yes, there is a transitional team that was published. Other people have it. They have it written on the newspapers. Go read it." And then they come back and say, "Now they don't have ideas." We're told, "Oh yeah, the opposition don't have no plan. They don't know what they're doing." Well, the government will be well organized. We have all of that here. Yeah, talking about Ellen. Yeah, I started working with Ellen in 2001 when nobody else was there. When Accra, Abidjan, everywhere, in Lagos with her. Talking about the campaign. I know what I'm talking about here. Sorry, man. I'll take a break.
Thank you. All right. That takes us to these functions. We see, and I alluded to it earlier, that there are a lot of speculations going on around. But do we really even know what these offices, what these jobs, the people in those roles should be doing? Let's take the Minister of Presidential Affairs for instance. What is that ministry about? What should the Minister of Presidential Affairs be doing? And what are the qualities or the attributes or the skill set needed for that role? Cole, I want you to start that rolling on these functions, this ministry. What are they for? Who should occupy them? And who are we looking for when we say, yes, we are recruiting? This is, I know they have your platform, but what is it to look for?
You're asking about the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs. I was having trouble hearing if somebody was trying to call.
Yeah, Minister of State. Let's take that role as that's someone.
Dennis, I'm going to actually log out and come back. Can you ask someone else that question? I'll be right back because I'm having technical issues.
All right, let me go back to Honorable Grace. Honorable Grace, let's look at the Minister of Presidential Affairs. What is that ministry about? And who should we be looking for to fill that role? What kind of person?
So you need somebody with integrity, qualification as a whole. I mean, most likely you always have people qualified to fill the post, but you need somebody that you can, as a president, that you can relate to. Somebody who knows you in and out, who you're very comfortable and secure being around. We say it in another way, in the colloquial way, we say somebody who knows your secret can keep your secret and all that, right? Now, the Ministry of State is the part of the component of government that hosts the office of the president. So you have two functionaries group in one. You have the executive mansion, the executive mansion that the president controls, that hosts the president, right? Then you have the administrative component to it. That is the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs. So that's the line ministry. That's the ministry that is the cabinet post and all that have all of the functionaries, the various people, the staff that carry on all of the administrative work of the Ministry of State. So it's a very delicate functionary position. So that person should be a very good manager, astute, far-sighted, and focused, because there are two weights that the two hairs you're carrying. One is the executive office, which is the president's office that hosts the president, and one is the administrative staff that has to go with your deputies and assistant ministers and all of that directors and all down the line. So you're administering two. So that's because most people don't understand what is the executive mansion. So most people don't understand what the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs. So and that's how they're formed. And that's why when I don't care who worked for who or when, I can give a recollection of what I know and what I saw and experienced. When I was in the executive mansion, and when the transitional team started to take full, there were people introduced to us as the incoming of those various positions you just mentioned. One was the Ministry of State, another was the press secretary, one was the chief of protocol, executive mansion, because we have two chiefs of protocol. One is the executive mansion, one is Republic of Liberia, that is hosted within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then we had the SSS director. So those were very key, pertinent positions that President Shelley wanted to have on ground. What was the reason of the tour? What was the reason of familiarizing themselves with the in and out of the executive mansion, so that they are already aware, already acquainted, that when she hit the ground running, they're already there. So that's how the process works. She came and she had her office at her home, her residence. That office was 24 hours around the clock, 24/7. So she was not sitting, she was working. It was almost like an administrative, like the executive manager at Fish Market. Because I remember we were going behind with communication back and forth. So we were not just hosting people and putting in the office for meeting. No, we were giving guided tours. And all of those names got revealed as being truthful. The Minister of State came in as it was through the transition. Education, Chief of Protocol, SS Director, Minister of Information, Mika. Everything was as it was, as we heard it. So these are the information. That's what the Ministry of State. So you want somebody, and she trusted Maurice Ziegler. Maurice Ziegler was like he was in charge. He was a big guy. He led the team that came to that we met. So he knew because he was an old soldier, like he with experience of government before, so he knew exactly some of these things. So as he went through, he was able to quickly get himself familiarized and acquainted, and started taking the ground, the ball rolling. So the next meeting, when Monticelli, President Monticelli said how to come, he was helping us lead that tour, and that's how it went.
Thank you.
So the Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs and the executive mansion of the president that hosts the seat of the president that hosts the president.
Thank you. Carl, I
Yes.
know. Let's look at that ministry. Is it really necessary, or we can just have a chief of staff? What is it about?
Well, being a minister as opposed to being a chief of staff makes you a cabinet member, right? So now you're a member of the cabinet. So you're sitting basically on the leadership board of the country. So that's why it's not just a chief of staff role, because it does give you some level of power when you're confirmed by the Senate. And then the position was created by an act of law for that purpose. Dealing with the office of the president isn't all. Excuse me?
Go ahead, Carl.
Go ahead, Carl.
Okay, dealing with the president's office isn't all. So it's not a chief of staff per se, because you have your own legal responsibilities over administration, public affairs, and then also in some ways, general oversight over your peers, because you're supposed to now come and give reports. Is often how it's executed. You give reports on the performance of your peers. So you're almost in a position of being like a peer review minister. One of my favorite ministers of state for presidential affairs of all time was the late Dr. McCain, may his soul rest in peace. But he was everywhere. He knew everything that was going on all the time, because he needed to be able to assist the president with understanding what challenges were, what people were doing, what people were not doing. And he also served almost as a buffer or a filter for information at times for the president. Again, because he is a cabinet minister, he is present at these meetings, he understands what's happening, and he's interacting with his colleagues as opposed to his superiors if he were just the chief of staff. It's an important role. The person who takes that role, he or she, needs to be extremely competent when it comes to understanding the roles and functions of all of the members of the executive branch of government. They cannot come into that role ignorant. It is not, I don't think, in my opinion, it's the best type of role for someone to be doing as an entry-level person to government. You should have some level of understanding. And also you must share the president's vision, understand their goals and their ambitions so you can best execute your duties. So most presidents bring people into those roles who are very close to them, people who are who they trust to be truthful and clear and concise when presenting information. That role can make or break a presidency. It is an extremely supportive role. The president is a human being. They're people, right? They have flaws, they have strengths, they have weaknesses. So often, if that person that's in that role can balance and kind of serve as an offset to whatever the president themselves may lack, that's great. For example, if I were to make a recommendation to the president-elect, I would say, listen, bring someone in who's very energetic, someone in who is, maybe more, what's the word I'm looking for? Besides energetic, somebody who's going to be I'm trying to be respectful in a sense, but someone who is going to have the type of energy and vigor necessary to be places that you cannot, to, interact in ways that you cannot, and be able to bring information to you. I would be a little bit apprehensive. I'd be disappointed if we got a minister of state for presidential affairs who was quiet, laid back, introverted, slow to act. That would be very disappointing for me. I want someone who has the complete, I wouldn't say opposite, but has a much more active personality in that role to kind of balance out the slow to act and wise, kind of thoughtfulness of the president-elect. Somebody who would kind of, be a little bit more forceful and active and probably from another generation. I'd like to see a younger person there as well, in that role.
Dr. Dukley, how is it different from the Minister of State without portfolio? That's
The Minister of State without portfolio is just what it is. You have no portfolio. The president makes you do what she or he wants you to do at any given time.
Why is that necessary?
Yeah, either local, international, anything. It's like a special envoy, really, with the title of minister. But if I were to comment on the Minister of State thing, I think, Torbek created our position. It wasn't there before, and then we kept it. So now, but the problem is, just like Greaves was saying, you have the mansion functioning with probably 500 people working one side, and then you have the president's office. So I think we have suggested at one point that the president chooses his chief of staff to just deal with her office and let the Minister of State be just to run the presidency. I mean, the whole system.
Administration, yeah.
Yeah, the administration. So that was the idea. I mean, she thought about it. She said, well, it's going to be difficult because she got used to the person and she didn't want to break that down. It would seem like, oh, you don't trust me anymore. But it was good to have, I mean, I hope Walker would think about it, that you have a chief of staff just deal with the president protocol, and president affairs, nothing from, and then you have the Minister of State who runs the Ministry of States. The workers, the assistant minister, deputy minister, so you don't have a conflict. We had the same problem with press secretary. At some point, Saros Badia was having a lot of problems, and we had a discussion. I said, Madam, your problem is Saros is your press person. He says what you said, but you need a communication director. That's how we created communication director 2010 or something like that. He wasn't there before. He had never been there. So there's that position. I think we still have the same form of government that we got from the interim government, 1992-93, when we shut down the Ministry of Rural Development. We still have Ministry of Information that nobody really have anymore on the continent, anywhere in the world, but we still have a Ministry of Information instead of having a Ministry of Culture. So these are the things that we need to think about. I think a cabinet is composed of the people the president trusts at that moment. They could stay on for a day or two. So there's no rationale behind it. There's no rationale. The minister said you want somebody who can sit with you 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, drinking champagne or beer and talking about what happened during the day. He may not be a technocrat, but the person is the person you trust. And that has your confidence that can trust. You can say, I'm going to sleep because John Brown is taking care of me. That's the Minister of State. That's what I've said. It could be anybody. It doesn't have to be a technocrat. It has just be somebody who trusts you, not somebody who, like re-experience, who take your signature, stamp signature, and appoint people behind your back. I'm sorry to say that, but it happened.
Right. But so you're talking about Nathaniel McGill, is that? So let me give you.
I was talking about Maurice Setuma, actually.
Oh, okay. Let me give you an example. Like when President Saliba appointed Maurice Dukley, those of us who knew, maybe we were far from them, we didn't see that Maurice Dukley was that close.
Well, Maurice, to tell you the truth, this is something that, Maurice Dukley and Ellen were now on the same side.
Right.
It was 2002, 2003, we had a leadership conference in DC. That was the first time Maurice accepted to talk to Ellen because he said she was part of the coup that overthrew Doe. And he had that belief. And that was 2002, 2003. That was the first time they ever talked to each other during a conference we had in DC. Bromsky, myself, and other people organized this conference in DC, and we brought them together. Ellen came, everybody came, and they talked for the first time. So that relationship he was never part of that inner circle. Mm-hmm. He was like taking people from the Doe era who wanted to follow her, and then he was part of that group, but he never became totally what you call quote unquote kitchen cabinet person. Although he was really important. I mean, the first incident that
So what would you
happened.
recommend to the president as he picks a minister of state?
Huh?
What's your recommendation? Not name, but what do you recommend for President?
Oh, I recommend Jimmy Eastman.
No,
That's a good one. That's a good one.
I
Jimmy,
knew you that.
That's a good one.
I knew you that.
If I'm gonna say the qualities of somebody like this, just like I don't know the word Cole was looking for, adaptability. You have to be able to handle a dynamic and fast-paced environment. You got to be able to think on the spot.
Yeah.
You're gonna have organizational skills, like you say. You're handling all the cabinets. You're going to be doing review of the cabinet, providing metrics or guidance of what each minister should be able to meet. You need leadership because you're representing the president, so you have to be a figure of authority as well.
Yeah.
And then you have to have this problem-solving ability. That you can you're right, effectively address challenges. And last of all, I think Dr. Google, you have to be able to communicate very well. In fact, that's usually common in all these top positions. You have to be an effective communicator. And because part of change, one thing I know about change management, part of change is being able to communicate very effectively to the people you want to change. Because to me, this is an administration that is about to affect a change, a monumental change in Liberia. So your messaging has to be very effective, and you need strong communicators to do this. And so it is. I can understand why everybody's anxious, because we want to see the kind of the dynamic individuals you're going to elect to do these things. So that's how I look at it.
And that's why I recommend you.
But Dennis, if I may, just one budgeting point to buttress what Dr. Dugu just said, and Mr. Eastman. You need all of those qualities, yes, but most upon all, you need patience and loyalty, because the minister of state is not the one in charge of the cabinet. Okay, he will relay message and information to the cabinet, back and forth to the president. That's the president who got the president's ears. But you don't want to duplicate functions or usurp the function of the press secretary and the communication director, because those are the people there precisely for messaging, and the press secretary to disseminate the president message on a day-to-day actively to the public. And then in the cabinet, it's different. In the cabinet, you have the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who is the dean of the cabinet, and he takes precedence. He's next to the president. Now, in the executive, you have the number two man is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. In the government, you have the number two man as the vice president of the republic. So it's kind of a little convoluted, but if you really understand governance and it's really our structure, you will know that these things are a little bit complicated. So the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and that's why just draw about the point. The only two excellencies we have in Liberia. One is the president. He or she is her excellency or his excellency. The next excellency in the whole country is the chief implementer of the foreign policy agenda, who happens to be the Minister of Foreign Affairs. That's why the vice president down, everybody honorable. The vice president will make some mistakes and what have you. The vice president is her excellency or his excellency is wrong. And the senator, just senator. Senator is not honorable. Now, so come back to this thing. Every proceeding, like every arrangement, cabinet have different arrangements. Like if you see the president hosting a cabinet meeting, everything is followed by something we call order of precedence. So it's from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. Everybody sits in that line. The first person who takes seat is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Now, Minister of State or Presidential Affairs should be way down in line, but because of that closeness, that loyalty, or that air around the president that he or she enjoys, so we have to bring them up front to sit in that bracket on the table, because that's the president Yes. Now you have defense, finance. So everything is done that way. So for the cabinet itself, you have people who are in line over the Ministry of State. But
Thank
for
you.
the president,
So I just want to ask you
Dennis,
something, Grease.
Yeah,
This
Dennis,
is
if
a
I
good
may.
point he's made. This is a good point he's making, but I want to ask you something for clarification. Do you think that began where the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs was brought forward? Because everybody knows foreign affairs is M1. We used to call, Gafwan and Olubanki, Mrs. King. But I think the only time I really saw that happen was with Dr. McCain. And I think it's because of who he is, not necessarily the position he held. Do you agree with that?
with what? Sorry again, I didn't get that.
So normally, of course, the Minister of Foreign Affairs is M1, Minister 1, right? But the Minister of State for Presidential Affairs, I think it was because of who was holding the position that seat was kind of brought forward and kind of, sat up front above the other ministers. It's because it was Dr. McCain in the seat. Not necessarily because, that those were just my thoughts. I think it was maybe
Yeah,
what he commanded as
yeah,
opposed to.
exactly. The closeness to the president, that rapprochement, that air, that enjoy. So we kind of like bring them up front because you don't want to have the president able lieutenant way down the line. So it started even with Maurice Dukley. Maurice Dukley was
Okay, so
even
it
more
was even with
vibrant,
Morris
more.
Duke. Okay, I didn't know that. I
Yeah,
thought it
he was
was
even more
McCain.
vibrant than Dr. McLean. He was, I mean, the guy was experienced. He was former Speaker of the House and all of that. So you know the clout he brought. And then you had Willie Knuckles. Willie Knuckles, he was an independent businessman who could just decide to make it own. But then like that, Dr. Douglas said, you don't want somebody too much into themselves. Somebody too like thinking they're powerful or they're the one occupying the position itself. Then it's a clash with the president. Because you're just a lieutenant, you're a lawyer, you're the gatekeeper. So yeah, So Dr. McLean, I work with Dr. McLean as well before I left and came as Consul General. Dr. McLean was somebody who was more relatable, approachable, funny. He would make crack joke and what have you, keep us up on it because President Study had a long hour of day work, and then and he was Dr. McLean as well. So he was educated, he was smart, he could write.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Dennis,
but yeah.
But yeah,
yeah.
talking about
Dennis,
the
if I
Anthony,
may.
hold on. Let me
Dennis,
bring
can
in
I speak
Anthony.
you?
no, I just want
Dennis,
to give you one point. The way we said Dr.
Dennis, I think it's my
he
turn now.
emphasized on doctor.
I'm not listening to everybody. I have to be part of the discussion.
Yeah, no,
The Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs was created by an out-of-national legislature in 1971.
Mhm.
It was created by law. The
Right.
roles are defined. I understand you are saying the individual occupying that role must have certain qualities, and I couldn't agree more. Jimmy mentioned the issue of the person must be an effective communicator. That is true. That person must be somebody who is details oriented. That is true. Now, if you say the Ministry of Presidential Affairs, the act said / office of the president. So that person is the chief administrator for the country. That person runs the office of the president. Now, in the act, the person also coordinates the activities of the office of the president with other ministries and agencies. That is the work of the person. So you need somebody who is a great team player, a leader. It will be a plus for the person to be a politician because most of these people that are acting in these other ministerial roles, in my judgment, they are also politicians. So that person must be savvy, must be an effective communicator, a person who is able to document things as he hosts meetings with other individuals and making report to the president. You need somebody who is quick on their feet, who makes decision. I don't think the person should be the president's friend, and that way I disagree because people say there's be a rapport. This is not a friendship thing, and this is where you get this thing all messed up. You don't need a friend to be your chief administrator as president of the Republic of Liberia. You need somebody who understands the duties of that office and is prepared to tell you the truth and advise you to do what is right for you to succeed. You don't need a friend there because Your friend might not be able to tell you the truth because of the friendship, but you need a patriot who understands the enormity of the role of the presidency, and that person is prepared to discharge those duties in the interest of the country and for the president to succeed. This shouldn't be about friendship.
And Mr. Chair, that's the question I was going to ask you on we describe patience and loyalty, because first of all these are political appointments, right? So whoever the president is appointed in that role is the one the president trusts, and loyalty is a big one, right? We've seen how President Weah and Presidential Affairs Minister Nathaniel McGill worked, right? Because sometimes these positions, people kind of look at who was there before and try to, I don't want to say mimic, and try to do exactly the same. So loyalty is a key one.
But
and Dennis, I'm not saying loyalty is not key, but how key is loyalty in discharging the duties of you were talking about constitutional responsibilities here.
Right.
I don't think the Constitution mentioned that you must be, loyal to the president. When you serve the president, you must be loyal to the state. These are constitutional responsibilities the person is executing. I'm mentioning World Constitution because they were created by out of national legislature, right? So you have roles. The roles are defined. And you must be somebody who is truthful to the president. The whole thing about loyalty, I think the loyalty should be to the country and to 8 people and not necessarily to the president. Because why if the president is thinking otherwise? Then
okay. You got a good point, but you're complicating two things here. There's only one person that's elected as president of the Republic of Liberia, of a country, that has the mandate and responsibility and charge duty to the country. Nobody else. The position or the institution was created by the art of law through the Constitution. The position is different. It's a political position. So the president has the authority to appoint through confirmation hearings or what have you, who represents her in that position, he or she in that position. The president can fire you for reason or no reason at all.
Right.
The only time you have problem if you have been accused and your reputation is at stake, then you can go back for questioning and you can go through our legal system and what have you, and the question your firing or your dismissal. But you are not charged with authority to deliver to the country on your own. No. You are disseminating, you are delivering, your mandate and responsibility is clothed within the authority of the president. That's the president's mandate you are executing, not your own. So any good friend of yours should be able to tell you the truth, whether you're a friend or not. If I have a friend, you can tell me the truth, you're not my friend. So
thank you.
So I have one thing to add.
Hold on, call Dr. Duke first, and then you come.
Okay, I won't do that to Cole. Cole, go ahead.
I was just trying to say that you do take an oath of office, and your oath of office, your oath of loyalty is not to the president, it's to the Constitution. When you're commissioned as a minister, deputy minister, assistant minister, you do take an oath, and that oath is to the Constitution. You take an oath to the Constitution just like the president does. Does that mean the president's not your boss? No, it does not. It means that the Constitution above your boss. So it means that whenever there's a conflict, if ever there's a conflict between constitutional loyalty and loyalty to the president, you choose the Constitution. This should be the case with any citizen anyway. But even for cabinet ministers, you take an oath of office and your loyalty is to the Constitution, not to the head of state.
Administered by the president. Just add that. The oath. That's why the oath is administered by the president. That's why the president stays.
But even if the oath is administered by the
she or he swears you in.
Even if the president swears you in,
it is a constitutional rule. It doesn't mean that you must.
It's a political post.
Your loyalty is to the Constitution. Your loyalty is to the Constitution, not to the president, not to any individual. This is a fact.
Generally, any appointed position is to the Constitution. Your loyalty got to be the country and the Constitution. But the president appoints you as a political post. You swear in. Your oath you take is swearing to the office, not the Constitution, the office of the president.
I think. Hold on. I think we all saying the same thing.
Can I say something here?
I don't think we're all saying
The
that.
swearing in is different.
This is where I'm
Let
coming.
Dr.
Dr.
Duke go in,
Duke.
Dennis.
I disagree. We're all not
Give
saying
him
the same
time
thing.
to
No.
let
I'm
Dr.
coming.
Duke
Let me hear me out,
All
right?
right.
Because everybody understands that the constitution, the oath is to the constitution and to the country. But
Country
in
first.
operation, if the president, and being loyal to someone doesn't mean that doesn't mean collusion, right? Dr. Duke coming.
Mhm.
I think we're really trying to cut hair into pieces. I don't know how to dissect it. A minister of state is somebody the president trusts. The president will go and swear on the Bible or the Quran, and the president standing, but that person has to have the president's confidence, total confidence.
Yeah, confidence. That's the word.
24 hours a day. That even the president, okay, you say, yeah. Of course, if the president knows that person, say, you put somebody in that position who you know will tell you, Mr. President, we can't do this.
Mhm.
And that person will understand that role, that you are now serving the president of the Republic of Liberia. You're not just
Exactly.
John Brown. So if you don't have that conscience, you're not supposed to be in that job. Because
No.
your real job is actually the private secretary of the president. Put all the things aside. Anybody know McLean used to go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock he was still in the office eating grumpy or cake, piece of cake, drinking wine.
12.
Yeah, from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock, the man was in office, wearing the same suit every single day. That's his job. You're a private secretary to the president, nothing else. We can call you minister, we can say contribution, but the reality.
I don't agree with that. I mean, as someone who served in the cabinet, I know that he was much more involved than just being private secretary.
You are private secretary to the president in the sense that you do what the president asks you to do, and then you start what the president doesn't want.
So long as it's within the Constitution. My point was
within the Constitution, because everything the president does is supposed to be within the
But
Constitution.
that's not the Constitution. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
The constitutional oath.
Violated the Constitution.
No, the constitutional oath is administered by the Chief Justice of the Republic. The political oath that it takes, swearing in, is administered by the president. So we don't let us get it. The only one person takes the constitutional oath is the president, administered by the Chief Justice of the country.
All of those are constitutional oath. But let's come to this point.
You gotta put it in context. It's not the constitutional oath. When you swear to the Bible on the oath, that ceremony that takes place, I've administered a lot of them.
Right.
It is your allegiance to the seat of the executive, not the Constitution. The Constitution is yes, it's a larger component. That's why the president by will can dismiss you. But you cannot dismiss the president.
This is not.
Except you impeach the president.
I've been commissioned twice. I've been commissioned twice. You swear to uphold the Constitution,
right?
Above all else, that's just a fact. So I agree that you're employed by the president's a political appointment. But whenever there is a conflict, whenever there's a conflict of interest, whenever you're being asked to do something against the Constitution, you are to refuse. We all understand this.
Yeah,
there should be no gray area here. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that you don't respect the president, you don't do your job. But we came out of an administration where the Constitution was repeatedly violated because people were following their leader instead of coming to a point and say, wait a minute, this is not constitutional what we're doing.
And again,
that's the problem. And this is why it needs to be stated.
And again, there's always what is on the books and what happened in reality.
Thank you. Let's move to
if we don't talk about what's on the books, if we confuse what's on the books, we cannot expect people to act accordingly. If we confuse it and say, oh, it's just on the books, it's not important, we shouldn't complain when people violate the Constitution.
What happens in reality?
What happens in reality is people are confused. They think their loyalty is to the president and not to the Constitution. So
that's Liberia for you. That's Liberia.
No. Nobody said that.
Like Mark Meadows is confused between his constitutional role and being loyal to Donald Trump.
We must clarify it because people violated the law and the Constitution. thinking they were doing what the president wanted them to do, and we had
There
a
are two
minister of
different
state
oath.
sanctioned.
There are two different oath minister.
Let's move on to this point that I want clarity on to is
Yeah.
each of these cabinet ministry, we have the minister, we have the deputy, we have assistant, and then we have directors, right? And sometimes I think, in my view, sometimes I think, oh, why are there too many assistants, too many directors, and too many? How does that? How, what are their responsibilities? Let's take one ministry.
That's an organizational question, Dennis.
No, but it's interesting though when you think about it.
And that question can easily be answered. The quantity or the magnitude of your coverage, what you have to address, should dictate how many deputies you need in line. Now, if you only have a small group of people or a small minimal task to perform, you don't need all that hierarchy. And that is where we fail to realize. It all depends on the immensity of the task at hand. And if the task only calling for one person, that's all you need. So that is why we say the government is too big. It's too fat. And what people advocate today is lean management. As few people as necessary to govern things the way they should be. And until we understand that and peel back some of the fat that has clogged the blood vessels of our administration, we're not going to straighten out things. We got people going to work and they don't do anything, hardly at all. That should not be. So that is one of the things I think we need to address, and that's the only way we'll get things going the way they should be.
And where you want to address that, which ministry you think has too many assistants and deputies that you're thinking of?
Everybody picks on Minister of Information. That's the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah, they
people don't even think the ministry should exist.
People doing nothing.
Yeah, they don't even think the ministry should exist. Where I do know that the duty should be split, though, go the opposite way, is finance and planning. Ellen put those two together, but those two functions, you see, if you're going to be concerned about fiscal policies and whatnot, you're not going to be more interested in research and planning, because you will be driven by budget instead of being driven by what the country actually needs. Those two entities should be split and let them do their jobs separately, so we'll get the most out of them. So there are places where you need to minimize and there are places where you need to split.
Can I say?
I don't know. Can I say something to that, Jimmy? Most of the organisms, I'm not one that thinks Liberia should mimic what the rest of the region does, because we have a very unique history, but most of Ghana has them together. I don't think the issue is about them being together. The minister doesn't run the entire ministry, right? So the technical deputies are the ones who actually run the ministry. When you have a deputy minister, that deputy minister is not basically repeating what the minister does. They have their own portfolio laid out as per the act. They have their responsibilities that are separate and independent of the ministers. And so we have to keep that in mind. Just because we've had deputy ministers who don't function properly in the role doesn't mean that the structure is the problem. It's not the structure, it's the people who are responsible for executing the role. So I don't see anything wrong with the structure of Ministry of Planning, Finance, whatever they've called it now. But when it merged, the problem wasn't that, it was structured incorrectly. Planning is a completely different role. There's a person who's commissioned to handle that. We focus too little on the deputies. I served as deputy minister. The work I did as deputy minister had absolutely nothing to do with the minister. I served under 3 ministers of finance as a deputy, transport, as a deputy for land and rail transport. The work you do is laid out. You have a terms of reference. You've got to do your job. It is not the minister proper's job. The minister proper doesn't even sign off on your work, really. Right? So that's kind of one of the things that we need to recognize, is that people need to do their jobs. And it doesn't mean that the structure is wrong. The problem usually is not the structure. It's the people. Their incompetence, their laziness, their complacency, their lack of innovation, their lack of motivation. Going and sitting there in a suit and doing nothing all day doesn't mean that there's something wrong with the law or the way it's structured. It's that person. And leaders need to remove such people. They need to be held accountable. There should be deliverables. If you don't do this, this, and this by this time, you need to go. And that's some of the problem. They're not holding deputy ministers accountable, assistant ministers accountable, hold people accountable for the roles and responsibilities they hold.
And that's my question now. So, Dr. Douglas, looking at these roles and responsibilities, most of the time we think of the minister proper, right? Every time we think about who is being appointed is the cabinet minister. How do we look for these deputies and assistant ministers? What can I be looking for?
Well, people who want to be minister and they can't get a minister job, they take the deputy. It's that simple. But I think that
because I think that's the problem, right? Because they have become political as well.
Yeah, everybody's political now. The problem we have is that the government has become the one employer number one in the country. There's no private sector. Going back to 1992, 93, when we, interim government, there was no money to pay people. They gave you gas slip, a car, and bag of rice and dry fish every month. Now we're still giving people gas slips. When we had a peace process, ULIMO, the NPFL, everybody came in. What they did, they brought new people into the government. Another working retailer, new factions, new people brought into the government. So you have no clue how many. We have never tried to rationalize the administration, the governance system of Liberia. Say, these are the people we need to run a ministry. These are the tasks, and this is what they need to do. We need 10 people here. We need 20 people here. But you go to places. I remember one time Dr. Sayer said, how can we have 260 people just to clean the yard on the payroll? Say, well, they were brought in. He cut it down, but it's still there. Some of them died there. So we have never, from the war to now, we've just been bringing people into the administration. And then the universities, our colleges have turned into diploma mills. They spew out 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 kids every day who said they have bachelor's degree, they have master's degree. What do? They go into those ministries. So you have a plethora of accumulation from 1992 to now. Nobody has said, let's look at the Ministry of Finance. What do we need there? How many people do we need? What are their jobs? They still have filing clerks in offices, 3, 4, 5 filing clerks in Monrovia offices. Although they don't file anymore. You go to ministry, you say they have filing clerks. That's what you mean. So we have these things that people bring, and then we have brought 20,000 people more, according to this GSA. So what are you going to do with it? How do you get out of that? So it's not just how do you run into a ministry and say, oh, I just need 10 people, but I have 200 people to administer. That's the problem. And then the ministry, nobody has Ministry of Information anymore. It was a thing of the past. You have Minister of Culture, Minister of Communication, dealing with new technology and all of that. But Ministry of Information was, it's something of the Russian age.
Right. That's just the name. Information can be anything.
Yeah, information. Yeah, it's nothing. I mean, you need Lina. I mean, in the case of Liberia, you need Lina, you need culture, you need tourism.
You need tourism bureau, yeah.
Yeah, bureau of tourism. And you need bureau of cinematography. They got 50, 60 people working in the Office of Cinematography. Have you ever seen a documentary, Liberian documentary produced by the Ministry of Information? Ever? There are people working.
Not recently.
No, when the last time you saw one? Probably when Bill was running his campaign.
Mr. Sia, let's look at the politics, right? Because Now, if we look at the coalition, we look at President-elect Buaka's 40, 50 years span of, making friends in government and all that. There are too many people that want jobs. And in order to absorb all of them is you keep the structure that Dr. Douglas described in place so that you can get places for all your people. What should Buaka be doing? Cut down government, then lose people that support you, or just keep it as is and satisfy political interests, and then your own re-election or fulfill your own promise and say, okay, we're going to absorb the Unity Party people, we're going to absorb the coalition, we're going to absorb.
And then that is the bad side about the politics of it all. Government is an institution like any other organization that has a responsibility to meet the needs of people. And to do so, that government must be effective. For the government to be effective, you need to have effective personnel who know what they're doing. You have so many departments, you have branches, if you like. They talk about something called division of labor, each one playing their role effectively wherever they assign. If you are a president now, and you have to appoint because you have this coalition behind you and you want to make sure you appease them because you're looking at maybe the next election, or because you want to be a human being who will want to be grateful to individuals who sacrifice for you, then there has to be a better way to do it. Find the qualified people to do the job, because at the end of the day, you want to succeed. Cole articulated very brilliantly that the structure is not our problem. It's the fact that individuals placed in these roles are not doing what they're supposed to do. So only if the politician, the president in particular, can be very conscious about, look, my job here is to deliver, so I will put people in places who will do the job, then that president is to succeed. But I feel that at some point, they don't think about succeeding and understand that to succeed, you need people who will do the job. They feel that for them to succeed, they need the people to be wherever they can get them, because at the end of the day, the people will, campaign for them, advocate for them, justify for them, and make excuses for them. That's what we see in government. Once you are appointed, whether the president is performing horribly, because you have a job, you will justify, try to confuse the people that, the president, like in the case of President Weah, he's the best president ever since 1847. Think about that. This is a man who is dancing. This is a man who became a joker of a president. But people who were given responsibility to serve in government, something that is their right as citizens, felt that they were being blessed by a human being. They didn't see that they were given a role to play for their country, and that they were not serving the president and they were serving their country. They didn't understand it that way. And that is the bad side of it. So I conclude to say, in order for any politician to succeed, for a government to succeed, the individuals who are placed in significant roles must know what they're doing, and when they fail to deliver, they should be removed and replaced. Because that's how you set the standard. Now, the standard now has been, I will sing Buaka's song, whether or not I'm qualified, but that is not the appropriate place for me. Buaka will put me there anyway. And at the end of the day, that person is now up to the task. So I couldn't agree more. The structure is not the problem. The government may be big. We may streamline the government, like the Ministry of Information, for example, we're talking about. You have cultural affairs, you have tourism, and you have information. I was reading the Ministry of Presidential Affairs, and I know that now they have public affairs and technology. And on the Ministry of Presidential Affairs, that can take care of the information aspect that is within the Ministry of Information. And you have press secretary anyway, and Dr. Dukle was talking about director of communication. So all these people almost like doing the same thing. So there's a need to streamline government, for Ministry of Information, that you were saying you can keep the cultural affairs, You can keep tourism, which is a big thing. You can have a bureau of that so they can be effective. But even as it is right now, if those in those areas, if those departments were headed by individuals who knew what they're
Exactly.
doing out to
Yeah.
do their work, we will be succeeding. So it's
Right.
not that we are not succeeding because it's big, it's because we're not doing their work. The airline I work for is big, but it succeeds. We made billions in profit because everyone knows what they're doing. And if you don't know, we subject you to training. And if you're not, we fire you. In Liberia, they fire people because they disagree on political ground. Maybe you're not seeking a political party song. That's the reason why
Yeah.
they fire.
You work for Southwest?
And
I
yeah,
do.
let's leave.
Okay.
Honorable Grace, what should be the yardstick in President-elect Bwaka looking for deputies and assistant ministers? Because according to the way Dr. Dukley said it, is okay. We need a LPP that join us to we get one ministry for you. So if you don't get it, then you go to the deputy. If you don't get it, you go to the assistant, right? If that's the standard, what should be the yardstick when Honorable Bwaka or President-elect Bwaka is looking for his deputies and assistant? Most of the time, what I hear is, oh, the minister doesn't have to know what they're doing. It's just management. The technical people will be the deputies and the assistant. The minister can be anybody. Is that true?
Okay, thank you. Before I go there, I just want to clarify something I said. On behalf of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, when I say he's number two, yes, he's number two on the cabinet of the team of the president, and he's number two in the foreign policy agenda of the country. And that's why the president is the foreign policy chief architect, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the chief implementer. So just to clarify that, even people are asking me. So back to this, the size of government, the structure of government, whatever. Government is a functionary enterprise. Government is not as we look at it or as we want to think it. There are mandates and responsibilities in every spectrum of it. You understand that there are public servants and there are civil servants. The public servants are the ones who are appointed by the president, and like Cole and Cia said, the structure of government, I don't think it's a problem. It has to do with the individuals who are there to implement those functionaries' positions. I don't want to look at and streamline. So everybody has a duty and function. They have mandates and responsibilities given to them or reposed them by the president because you're the political appointee. So like the Minister of Foreign Affairs and maybe going back to the presidential affairs,
I want to go back to the assistant
Ministry of State
and deputies.
Yeah. So like minister. Okay, I'll give you an example of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So you have the minister, and you have the deputies, you have the assistant ministers, and so I think up to that level, I'm still to be corrected. I'm not sure a director post besides ambassadors or what have you. They are all political appointees. The president appoints.
Director of passport is part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, right?
Come again?
No, I said director of passports, for instance.
Yeah, director of passport sometimes is appointed by the president. Sometimes the minister can get involved with that, and so. But the key positions that the public servants that the presidential appointees will be the minister, deputies, assistant ministers. I would like to stop there for now and what have you because I'm not too sure the other.
What should Bwaka be looking
but
for?
The thing, unfortunately, as we want to wish that ministers, assistant ministers, deputy ministers should be people who are technocrats or people who are career in those various positions. I will tell you, unfortunately, it's not so. You need people with integrity. You need people with competence, with good managerial level skills, who can lead the institution because the government administration is all about consistency and it's about continuity. So you don't want to have disruption. And that's why bring us back to the argument of the president appointing people and dismissing them. Those technocrats are people who are functionaries within those institutions, agencies, and ministries that are not subjected to the president appointment or dismissal. So you bring in a minister who has a very good managerial skills, who can lead and liaise with the technocrats. Now, what you need is business accountability and transparency. You need evaluation to know what they're doing, what they're up to, how they're going. Because to bring in consultants from outside to check, do a study on what they're doing, what progress they're making, and what have you. If you don't have the in-depth or the professional or career understanding of those things, so but you don't want to have always as okay, like we had Minister Donzo at Public Works, a career fine engineer, one of the best Liberia could boast of. President Sally appointed him as Public Works Minister. And what happened right there? Because of overzealousness, over ambitious. He had good intent. He wanted to make things happen. He wanted to do it with the speed of time. But then we had technocrats, people who were already there, who had a blueprint and knew exactly how to things. So they had a clash because the minister who's supposed to be a manager, making sure that these people have the requisite logistical support and all of the support they needed to implement those things. He wanted to do it the way he learned it or the way he knew it because he felt as one of the guys who knew the job. So what happened? Things started to fall apart. And what made it worse? The PRO was lacking. When the road on the Congo Town back road, when the road started breaking after they did it in a few months, the whole road was gone. And then he came, and then they didn't even give the PRO the chance to go and clear all that. He came up and said, "Oh, we fixed the road, but the heavy trucks were totally saying when I rode in the spot." It made everything. I mean, not to say he had a bad intention, not to say he messed up, but he didn't. He tried to use his profession, his ideas to clash with a blueprint that was already there, and that caused a little conflict. And then to clear it out with the PRO, that executive manager had to come in and clear. But anyway, what I'm trying to say, just giving a typical example. So everybody got a functionary position. Everybody have their mandates and responsibilities. Like when I served as assistant minister at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I was in charge of European affairs. So I was dealing, and the good thing about me, the thing that helped me, one of the things that boosted me was that I was from the president's office. I was already liaising with the EU team, the EU representatives, as well as Brussels, the headquarters. I was already liaising in a good relationship with all of the ambassadors we had from across Europe. All those people saw me as a friend. Bill Grease invited me to functions and all that. So it was a smooth ride. So Gabriel McIntosh just relied on Grease. You got everything. Everybody talking good about you. I mean, you just go ahead. So he gave me the leeway. Now I have mandates and responsibility, but say he was my next in command to report whatever I know I was doing out there traveling and doing what have you, reporting to him. As well as going to the president because the president appointed me. Now, so all these different groups, these structures are there for good reasons. But now, are we going to use it for the intended purpose, or are we going to abuse them, or are we going to have people who? And that's why the president has the authority. That's why when you're appointed in a presidential post as a minister, when you take that oath is a minister, and it's a command and authority of the president that you are being commissioned on. And that's why the president has the will to fire you. Now, generally speaking, we all abide by the Constitution. We are all guided by the Constitution. Generally, we don't even have to swear or what have you. But the president is the only person who is a minister oath by the Chief Justice as the chief executive and the commander in chief of the country because of the electoral process. The people say, hey, that's our chosen person. So that's why that person can be dismissed except by impeachment. But every other person, we might not like it, but you are subject to the president.
We're talking about two different things. When
right. I don't want you to go back there to that one. Jimmy.
So telling about his personal experiences. That's not what we're talking about.
Hold on, Mr. Anthony. Jimmy, I'm talking about these deputies and assistants. What should Honorable Buckeye, what should President-elect Buckeye be looking for? What should be the yardstick to fill in those positions?
Excellent. And not only what he should look for, because I heard what Greaves was saying. I lived in that. I never worked for foreign ministry, but I lived that life for a very long time. You need to provide a strategy, a policy that these people have to follow. Like I was going to ask Greaves, what did the minister of foreign, did he give you a strategy of what that you had to follow, a guideline that he expected you, or he just said go on and do what you want to do? So the
Oh,
president
no, no, no,
first.
no. Yeah, that's true.
Well, I know
Hold
I
on,
was just a
hold on, Honorable.
rhetorical question, Reeves.
Hold on,
It was just
Honorable.
Yeah,
rhetorical.
that's true. No, you're making a good point. That's true.
Right.
Okay,
Jimmy,
so
please make your point.
so the president first has to come up with the strategy for each of these ministries that he needs. Then he tells the deputy, I want you to carry out this policy and develop your objectives and how you will attain them. But this is what we have. I think that is foremost. Then you look for people who are detail oriented, who know how to achieve goals, who know how to come up with plans to achieve the objectives and things that laid out in front of them. And lastly,
Okay.
you have to be able to assess their I think Cole was talking about it. You have to assess their function all the time. Are they meeting expectations? Are we moving the needle to where we wanted to go? If you don't provide this, you can have the best person almost in the world, but in absence of that guidance and that strategic objective placed before them, you will not achieve it. So you can go look for good people, but first, I say, look at what you need to be done and tell them, can you do this? And then have them do it.
Can I come in?
I want us to conclude now. Yeah, come in, Dr. Douglas, so we can.
Yeah, no, just a
I
short.
mean, I don't think, Dennis, I don't think you asked me this particular question.
Oh, okay,
Having
yeah.
been someone who served as a deputy
You spoke
minister.
3 times. I haven't spoken.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to let Dennis know that I do want to clarify something.
Yeah, please.
Okay,
I want you to answer that question too. Go ahead, Dr. Douglas, and then
No. I'll let it go. I will not talk before her. Go on.
Hey, Dr. Duke. Go
Hey,
ahead.
I said go on. Maybe I lost my thread.
Yeah, Cole. What
Go
should be the
ahead.
yardstick? Because these deputies and assistants, sometimes they confuse me.
I mean, the assistant ministers are always have a similar role, support role to the deputies. The deputy role is clearly laid out by the act. All of these ministries are structured in such a way that they can carry out their function, the fiduciary function for the people of Liberia. So if you're a deputy minister, you have a specific role. If your role is the deputy for administration, your role is administrative. You're there to make sure that the ministry is running, that people, that the finances are in order. You're responsible to do annual reports. You are in charge of oversight of the finance and expenditures and all of these things. If you're a technical deputy, like for example, when I was deputy minister for land and rail transport, you were basically in charge of the operational arm of the ministry. Each ministry is structured differently depending on what it is. So under that, you have the director of motor vehicles and everything else. So you're doing inspections, you're doing policy, you're making sure that license plates, all of these things, you're coordinated with the Ministry of Finance, or now the Bureau of Revenue Authority. The other thing is the ministers have a much more political role than the deputies. The deputies' roles are more functional. Many of the ministers serve as members of boards for other sector lines. For example, transport ministers on the board for airlines, for National Transit Authority, for the Port Authority, and so on. So the ministers, because they're on the cabinet, they're in charge of these sectors. They also have oversight over the entire sector, whereas the deputies are very functional and very technical. So if a president is appointing a deputy, they need to understand what that function is, who's best equipped and capable. In many ways, the deputies need to be more technically savvy than the minister does, because the minister really isn't doing a lot of the technical work. It's more of an oversight policy kind of role. It is the deputies who are actually carrying out the real functions of the ministry. And that's the case with even education ministry. Who's developing the curriculum? It's not the minister proper, it's the technical deputy for that area. And that person usually comes with a background and some understanding of what they need to do. Now, all the ministries are not structured the same, right? But because they're not structured the same, the acts that brought those ministries about need to be understood there needs to be some form of orientation so that those people who are coming in understand the roles. And like Mr. Eastman correctly said, that president needs to set the standard and the expectation. What is it I want you to accomplish?
Okay.
It's
Can I go
very,
now?
very important.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm done.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah. I think when you talk about deputies, and I think people who serve in that position probably know more. I've never served really in government.
Only call and only agrees on this panel serving that.
Yeah, I've never served in government. So I think
You said you never served in government? What?
no, I never served in government.
Okay.
Ever. You know my job title? The only time I served in government was 3 months, no, 4 months in Ivory Coast as chargé d'affaires to go straighten up the embassy. That was my only job in government ever. Anyway, I'm thinking about, beyond this, putting the right ball in the right hole and stuff like that. When I talk about, going back to interim government, all of that, I'm trying to bring us to think about government. What form we are trying to adapt Liberia to a form of government that we inherited from a long time ago that was set in place. But we're not trying to change it around. We have never questioned the form of government we have. That's my issue. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Mm.
We have this government that came from the 1960s, 70s. The only addition, probably rural development and Minister of State by Tolbert. Yeah, I agree it was done by an active legislature, but it was pushed by, it was Tolbert who decided to do it. So we have never questioned the form of government we have. Is it what we have? Is that, we copy something from the US, but we are not US, we are Liberia. Is this really the government we want? Is that the ministry? Are this the ministry that are capable of running that country, transform that country? Or are it small bureaucracies into their own, linking up to the power, creating an imperial presidency where, things get bungled up into, I don't know. So I want us to take the reflection further. I mean, not now, but I think, we need to think about further and say, what form of government, what kind of administration do we need to do Liberia?
You think Mr. Bwaka is going to answer that question?
No.
All right.
But Dennis, quickly, please. Jimmy just brought up a point. So I thought I was clear when I spoke about evaluation, and I spoke also about transparency, and accountability, and all that. I thought I clarified that. That's why I didn't want to go into detail. And when I talk about the functionary position, the mandates and responsibilities, all that transcends from that. All that trickle down from the office of the president. The agenda, the policy, domestic and foreign policy, set forth by the president. Those are what is that are implemented into all of the different line ministries and agencies. So, like the foreign policy, what have you, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the minister, the deputies, the assistants, and what have you. Now, the reason I was going straight because I thought I made us clear. But your functionaries, your mandates and responsibilities. The foreign minister is the chief implementer of the foreign policy agenda. So what is formed like the transformation agenda of President Sharif. That at that time it was the leeway for us out there for our foreign policy. That took place from the domestic policy. So you're working within a guideline or frame. So that was already obvious. So I didn't go into detail in all of those things. But so when you function in that capacity, and like she said, every deputy minister, yeah, you technocrat, but you also risk a point of insecurity because our government, our country, people talking behind each other, people fighting each other for job and what have you. You can get dismissed at the second. So for that reason, the nuclear of all of our agencies and institutions and ministries are those civil servants, those career people that have been in those positions and in those ministries and agencies forever. They are the ones who, when a political appointee is appointed and come in, they are the one who give you a little tour and give you a revision of things and how they are done, and give you the basic blueprint and framework of those things. And that's what led me to the example of Minister Donzo and the technocrats. The technocrats are those directors. The directors that are there, they are civil servants, most of them. The deputies, the assistants, the principal himself can go like tomorrow. So
Okay.
to maintain consistency, you want to have you don't have the technocrats as the civil servants because they are always there. They don't go. The president doesn't. The president can't dismiss those people because
Thank
they're
you.
not under the authority. They're not under the mandate of the president acts. So that was the point I was trying to make. I mean, I didn't go
Thank,
much in detail. But
thank you.
you're functioning with that platform. That's why the president come with an agenda. The president come with a policy. And that's what take hold in the whole government, that administration. The next administration come, they bring their own policy. They bring their own agenda.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for spending your evening with us. At this time, we're going to conclude, and I want us to conclude with this because I started with a lot of lists and speculations going around. Appoint this person. We are here. Pick me, pick me. In fact, I think I lost my dream job already as the superintendent of Sino County because I don't think all the lists I saw, I didn't see my name. So that is out of the door. But on a on a serious note, let us conclude with let's talk to the public and President-elect Boakai directly as to what we want to see the people he should be looking for on the ministerial level, the deputy and the assistant level, and even public cooperation. There's this whole thing, So based on our own experience, let's close with that. Let's start with you, Mr. Eastman.
Yeah, I mean, what should be the common denominator, especially in our country, is integrity. You definitely have to have people of integrity because there will be a lot of temptation. There'll be a lot of pressure to become what you see. There'll be pressure to be corrupt. There'll be pressure for kickbacks. So your integrity has to be intact if you're going to be successful. The other thing you're going to be needing how to be innovative, because our country right now is cash stricken. You don't have there's not enough budget, there's not enough money. What do you do in absence of money? What can you do? You're going to have to come up with ideas that with the budget constraints and you have that will still be effective. So you will need to be innovative in ways that not everybody can be. So another quality you would need, again, you need to be a good communicator, because if you're going to start changing people, you're going to have to know how to get them to agree to the new way of doing things, and that happens through communication. And of course, you want somebody who is going to be, there was an element of loyalty to the country and a element of confidence. He needs to put people that he has confidence in who will perform. And if he doesn't perform, if you don't perform, then you remove them. I remember, I thought Duke was going to mention it, but during Talbot area, its minister of state at that time was E. Reginald Thompson, and he wasn't a friend of Talbot, but he was a confidant of Talbot. You understand? In other words, I think you're going to do the job not because you're my friend, because you are capable of doing the job, and I believe that's the only way Buckeye should pick his deputies going forward.
Thank you, Honorable Griffith. In addition to that, somebody told me that integrity alone will not cut it. We need innovation because our country is too far back. Integrity alone wouldn't get us there. You're closing, sir.
But when you talk about vision, you said what they need vision?
Innovation.
Of course, innovation, all of those qualities, like I said, everything budgets by Dr. Dugley, Kohu, and Mrs. Sear. I said, but more to that, the paramount, the main thing is the patience and loyalty and innovation. All of things come in, competence and all that comes in. But look, I shouldn't fool you, and we shouldn't fool ourselves. When the president reposed that trust and confidence in you, it must have come from someplace. What if the president might have known you, or your people may have thought rather that the president didn't know an individual or whatever. You don't know what relationship they must have established, and you don't know what the confidential bandwidth they have, or that bind them together. So we shouldn't fool ourselves. We shouldn't no, we should just have people who have who are determined, want to carry on your platform. That's why elections have consequences. And that's one person can be president. And that one person can bring the agenda, the policy, and say, look, this is what I want the country to go. This is the way I want to go. I'm the president. I'm in charge. And everybody fall into that and try to make it, reality. So you can be innovative to have it done. But it still goes back to the loyalty to the president, because you're making that platform. You are selling it out. You are implementing it. You're being whatever skills you gotta have skills to make sure you got to be on your good works, and the president will be impressed and say, yes, okay, this is what I want, this is what I hope for. And I think in this individual or this minister or whoever that is can make my mandates, can make my policies relatable to the people, can have me accomplished. That's what you're looking for. But no, we shouldn't fool ourselves and say we need somebody to sit before the president, because when we said tell the president truth, is to give you advice. And like when I work in the security aspect, the close protection, SSS before then and whatever, and protocol. When the president is making a trip someplace, we measure the risks. It's high risk, it's low risk, it's what have you. Determine on the level of security risks at that area. Our duty is to tell the president, Madam President or Mr. President, behind the corner right there, that area we're going or whatever, you're going to meet the public, you're going to have a town hall meeting or whatever. The security risk is very high. It's up to this level. And we have to let you know, we advise, then we give advice, we give options, not even advice, but options. We our options are these. This, that. The president can decide to take what we tell her, or him, decide what we tell him, or say, you know what, I hear what you told me. I'm going there. Your duty is to make it workable. You don't say to the president, challenge the president, no, we told you to no way. You take that instruction. So that's the whole thing with the government. So we shouldn't fool ourselves. Oh, people will be tough with the president. And no, you can make your point. You can give your advice. You can give your perspective on how you see things. But at the end of the day, the last result, the last mandate, the last decision is the president's decision.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Sia.
Dennis, thank you. And, we're talking about who are the people Bwaka should be looking for. Bwaka should be looking for ethical people. Bwaka himself should be that example in every shape and every form. And he should be able to live that himself. And he should be able to hold people accountable when they fail to be ethical. I don't expect Bwaka to appoint recycle crooks in his government. I don't want to see that. We want Mr. Bwaka to appoint people who are qualified, but most so competent, people who are result-driven. These are the people we want to see in government. If the person is qualified, the person is not competent, enough delivering the results, let Bwaka remove them and bring somebody who will do so. That is the way to succeed. Anything short of that, he will be a failure. And I know some of you are afraid to say that. He will be a failure if he brings in people who are not ethical, who are not delivering results, who want to be chairwomans, people who want to just be called honorables, people who are not innovative. If Bwaka brings those people in and, they just sit there and warm the chairs and drive the cars, we are going nowhere. And it should start from Bwaka. Also, the individuals themselves should have the consciousness that they have a responsibility given to them by Bwaka. So they should understand that they have a role in a country, that they are considered citizens. They have a responsibility to the state and to the people to do their jobs, period. And that's why the president should demand, and that is why they should do everything in their power to deliver. And if they can't do it, like Mr. Grease said, I agree. The final decision lies in the head of the president. The president should act because we have a country to run, and there are people who are hurting in villages. I mean, come to think about, I saw a school in Riverside that I displayed the other day. And then you have a minister of education who doesn't know how to innovate to change that building into something where a child will have a seat for 4 years, 5 years, and 6 years, and it's to the knowledge of that minister and not finding a way to make that happen, then there's no point you being minister of education. I know constraints are there, but you have to be innovative. When you have constraints, find a way. Dennis Jai would tell me, well, instead of all fighting for roads, why us not bring internet? Because I can be here and teach somebody in Southtown because of internet. We may not have money to build all the roads, but we can afford the cost of the internet to provide the education. Innovation is key, and people should be about delivering results and not about warming chairs and carrying titles around. Titles don't put bread in anybody's in plate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And speaking Liberian, you will say breadfruit, not actually the bread.
I know, right? Maybe I should say roasted cassava with coconut.
Well, yesterday I was interviewing the guy who's leading the Senate protest, the protest against the Senate, for their pay, right? Charles Brown. In fact, I learned today that his car was on fire. But what I learned that shocked me is the money that people are making in the legislature, right? That even if they come by with the president, I mean, you are working for 1 month. Let's say you get 10,000, but of the 1 month you are working, maybe you're supposed to work 10 days or 7 days. Outside those 7 days, when the president called you, he got to pay you for another month. So there is so much money going around or being wasted. I don't know if the president-elect Bouaka will do something about it, but your closing has to Bouaka's cabinet and really what to do with this government, with the kind of waste and abuse that is also in government.
You are muted, Carl.
Mute.
You muted me, Dennis?
Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, the legislature is a different conversation in their waste. I think we have to accept the fact that we are very underpopulated as a country. We don't have a huge pool of human resource to draw from. When people are in that situation, there's two things that they have to do. They have to build the capacity of the people who are there, present and able and willing and capable of learning. And they also have to try to work hard to recruit their citizens to return home. We had a lot of capital flight during the war, and many people have no intention to return to Liberia. This is a problem for any country. If 20% of the population of the United States left, this country would collapse. I say it all the time. People worrying about people coming. The United States wants people to come. Human capital is what makes a country great. Government needs to take on the task, the number one task of building up its citizens. Everything needs to be taught. Ethics need to be taught. Everything you can think about. I mean, all of us that live in the States and live in other parts of the world, we know that these are constant things to build your capacity. It's an ongoing process. People are not going to come in. I heard Sony saying, we can't recycle the same old corrupt people. I mean, what percentage of the population are we going to disqualify from leadership if we use standards as a gauge that they haven't been taught, that they haven't been acculturated into? We have to be realistic. And then we have to say, okay, well, why is it that the whole entire country, the legislature, the judges, the education sector, the police, everyone, the churches, the mosques, everybody is involved in this unethical, corrupt behavior? We can all sit and condemn, but everybody's hands are dirty. How do we fix it? How do we fix it? We have to teach what it is we want to have happen. We have to bring up young people in an education system that teaches them how to conduct themselves in a society that's diverse. How do you function A lot of the dysfunction that's going on is because of the collapse of many of our institutions. Our traditional systems have been discredited, they've been broken down. How do we build the capacity of our society to function the way it should? Why are the lawmakers? We can condemn them all day. Oh, the lawmakers are doing this, they're doing that. This is the kind of thing that has to be planned out. It has to be implemented in every aspect of society. When I went to the National Transit Authority, I didn't fire anyone. The same people that used to be stealing and breaking down the buses and taking fuel and taking car parts are the same people that fixed the place. Do you know how they fixed it? Gave them the tools and the skills that they needed to function in their jobs. Gave them an understanding and gave them the dignity they needed to understand that we're going to create a culture of integrity here. It's going to begin with me. Having workshops, constantly training, and at the same time, simultaneously putting in checks and balances so when people did the wrong thing, they could be held accountable. But the expectations were set, the skills were given, they had the tools they needed to do the right thing. I was in my early 30s, for God's sakes, and I had this figured out. Why is it we can't do it on a larger scale? These are things that nobody wants to be going to work and putting tools in their pockets. It's normalized in our society for people, wherever you tie the goat, that way they will eat. How do you break that chain? How do you break that dysfunction? You reacclimate people. You set expectations. You show them what those expectations are. You make them I made people sign contracts. You're responsible for this. Anything goes wrong, you forfeit your job. You fire yourself. You have to have that kind of courage in leadership. Not pretending it's not happening or holding one human, it's just everybody. If you don't teach people and set a tone of expectations of how you should do your job, everyone's going to be dysfunctional. This has to do with civil service agency training people, to the ministries themselves training people. Everything starts with the human beings. There's nothing wrong with our institutions. It's the people who are responsible for executing the functions of those institutions that need to be built up so they can do their jobs.
Thank you.
Build the people up, build up the young people, build up the civil servants, build the people up. That's what it boils down to.
Thank you, Carl. Dr. Dukla, you got the last word.
Well, like everybody else, I think we hope and pray that Barker will find men and women of integrity that he can trust to, lift his agenda and carry it forward. Everybody talks about the communication aspect of government. Sometimes we forget government is all about communication. Whatever you do, you don't do, if you don't communicate, you're not there. I remember 2008, I was here, Madam Shelley called me, say, I have a serious problem with communication in the government. She said, can you come and do something about it? I said, okay. So I went. And she said, I want you to come to the cabinet and talk to the people, to the ministers about it. We met in the cabinet room. Do you know out of how many ministers, 17, 18 were there? Only 3 people knew who the communication officer was. That was like 2 years after they were in government. They didn't know if they had computers. They didn't know where the offices were. I mean, I give them a questionnaire. Who is your communication director? Where's the office? Do they have a computer? What's their phone number? Only 3 ministers were able to respond to the questionnaire. And I remember Tolbert, he was out the NIC at the time. He said, whoa, sorry about this. So I said, so how do you think you're running your ministry? You're somebody who's supposed to talk about you. What are you doing? And what are you not doing? You don't even know that person. Mm-hmm. And that's supposed to be a minister in your office. So that's how bad it was. So we had a conference, we had a workshop. I organized a workshop for 6 weeks and da-da-da-da. But that's a problem, institutions, of course, but I still ask the question, do we have the right institutions for the new Liberia? Do we have the institution, are they staffed enough to do what we need to do to be done to make Liberia as a better place. Because if you have a ministry that's supposed to employ 3 people or 10, 15 people, you have 500 people sitting there. The work is going to be managing those people, not being innovative. So I think we need to, those of us who have the time to think and reflect, let's think more about what do we need to govern Liberia? What governance system do we need? Go back, go beyond the colonial history, go beyond the colonial, U.S. imported system of governance. Don't see these ministries as this is what we need. Are they? So I think we need to go beyond that. We need to go beyond minister, deputy minister, assistant minister, director, We're still doing functionalism, people come in and go, we got ministry, but we don't really reflect on what is needed. We said 1980, everybody said it was a coup d'etat. Okay, it was a coup d'etat, but everybody said it was a revolution. Because today we would not have a president if we did not have 1980. We would not have buffer chamber, speaker if we did not have 1980. But what did we do with 1980? We never ever questioned the form of government. We just went into it. And that's the laziness, that's the intellectual laziness that Liberians have never overcome. We never questioned the system. We never questioned what is wrong with this, how can we fix it? We just fall into the mode and then we carry on. So I think, I want to invite everybody to think, is this the form of government that Liberia needs?
Yes, it is.
That we
The
need?
answer is yes.
So that's a very Dennis. Yeah, Dennis, that's a very good point that Douglas just made. I think this form of government has been helping us, our brothers, far, and I think it's good. But one essential point he made was, instead of calling ourselves using this targeted thinking and negative narrative of calling ourselves corrupt, he just made a good point. If we focus on building the human resource capacity of our country, building the young people to the point of that they will understand what is accountability, we will get at that whole scenario of things, calling and accusing ourselves. So that's a good point he struck. I think those are one of the areas we should start visiting and looking at and paying more attention to. How do we build young people? And that's why I felt a little down when our president elect used the word that it was somehow, I know he didn't mean it that way, but it was somehow discriminatory. No young boy can hold any post in government, what have you, and that because if you look at small,
really?
let us not start the show again.
yeah, because no, I'm just raising the point, just to buttress what Douglas said. Because if you look at some of our own history here, when I got in government, I was very young. I mean, and did I live up to the task? Of course. Everybody, all my mentors and what have you, I'm so proud. Thomas Jefferson was 33 when he signed the Declaration of the Independence of the United States of America. So those are the kind of things that we need. We need to build. We start focusing on building capacities and building our people instead of just putting all people down.
How old was Hillary Teague when he signed the Declaration of Independence? You talking about Thomas Jefferson? How old was Hillary Teague?
Well, history. We get to that. Experience is very essential.
Call the age of LRT, so we'll use LRT now instead of Thomas Jefferson. How old?
I know, right? So
late 30s,
right? Experience is very essential.
Yeah.
Talent, competence, but that's innovation. We gotta be careful how we use innovation, because you can be innovative if you don't have the mindset, and you don't know how to deliver, you don't know the obstacles, and you don't know the strategy to apply. Innovation will lead you nowhere.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for. I know the notice was short, but you were able to come and deliberate, because I just got tired saying the list passing around without people even understanding the functions of these areas. Thank you again. And thank you our viewers, those who watch it now and those who will watch later. Always watch Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until then, my name is Dennis Jai, closing on behalf of the crew with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.